Hello, all my food service power plant friends. It's Jason Wange in Denver, Colorado, with your Power Plant Positivity Tip 16. Decide your relational outcomes. Now, we've known even before the challenges of today that relationships are key to just about any success or fulfillment you want, either in your personal life or in your career. The relationships with companies that you've got will help decide whether your company thrives or not. The relationships that you have in your personal life will help decide and define whether you live an existence that's fulfilling and rewarding or one that feels empty or a little bit isolated. Relationships are key. Study any thought leader from Brennan Burchard or Sean Achor, Tony Robbins, Brene Brown, Jack Canfield. All of them will tell you relationships is one of the key aspects to living a fulfilling life or having a successful company. Now, the other thing to remember right now is that if it's uncomfortable, if relationships you're finding are a little bit harder than they used to be, you're normal. I don't want you to take that as, oh my gosh, why can't I do relationships right? No, anytime there's trauma or challenge that's brought in the middle of a relationship, it is harder to have that relationship. And so you really have to be more intentional in deciding what our relationship's going to look like on the outside. And here's why that happens. In normal relationships that we've been in for years, you're used to sort of doing a particular kind of dance. You have a role and the other person has a role, or your company or your organization has a role in the relationship, and your customer or your vendor, they've got a role. And right now you're in a situation where chances are you're both stressed. You're both out of the groove, out of that normal rhythm, and trying to figure out, well, what does it look like to be in a relationship and to communicate when I'm uncomfortable? And chances are you're both uncomfortable. So if it doesn't feel easy right now, just know this, you're normal. Now, here's what I want you to do to be more intentional about having not just good relationships when this is all over. I want your relationships to be even stronger. Your relationships with your friends and your family, your relationships with your customers or your vendors. We want them to be in even better places than when we began with all of these challenges. So I want you to decide now what your desired outcomes will be at the end of all this. And here's what this looks like. If you're going into a conversation with someone and it's it's going to be more challenging, or you're a little bit nervous, or there's a customer and you guys are working through stuff, decide before you even get on the phone. You know what are the things that we're going to talk about to make sure that the conversation ends well, that we have a little more trust, or that we know each other a little better? What are some things that I know they're going through that I can offer to help them through or care for them? Now, here's something I want you to be really smart about. If there's a challenge that you all have been dancing around for some time, I don't want you to avoid it. I want you to go in, and you can go in with the customer, you can go in with that family member and say, hey, listen, I know there's this thing that we've been meaning to talk about and we've needed to review, and I don't want to just put my head in the sand. I know it's there, but maybe there's a better time in a month or two or whenever when we're both in healthier spots to be able to address it. You know what? Relationships are built through surviving risk with someone else, and that vulnerability, that integrity to bring up that tough thing that you both know is there, that's a risk moment that you will come through, and you will have built more trust with that person. I'm going to just give you a personal example in terms of what trauma can do in relationships and the need to decide your outcome first. A few years ago, my wife Shannon, she had two random heart attacks. Now, it was random, I tell you, because she was incredibly healthy. She is incredibly healthy. She was at the gym when they happened. And even while we were in the hospital, we noticed that our relationship was a little bit different, that we were having some bits of conflict that we weren't used to, either in the way we approached the kids or relationships that surrounded us. And we had to decide, how were we going to end up? What was our relationship going to look like when this was all said and done? And we decided, no matter what, our family was going to be strong and number one out of this whole thing. We knew that trauma had an ability to separate people, and we've watched other families that have gone through trauma not fare so well. So we decided to do a few things differently in our life. Number one, we started eating dinner in the living room. It sounds random. The first few nights we were home, Shannon couldn't get from the couch to the dining room table, so we brought dinner into the living room. And one of the kids said, you know what, let's play a board game. So we started playing board games at dinner in the living room. And I would bet that for the first 2 years after her heart problems, we ate dinner around a board game in the living room more than half those nights. It was a way for us to connect. It was something new and different. The other thing we decided was we were going to dance. If I saw Shannon just in the kitchen or in the living room, even just for a minute, I would come up and we were going to dance for a moment. It was a moment of intimacy, something that we'd never really done before, but we were intentional in the things we were doing, our responses to her heart problems, to make sure that the outcome we wanted of our relationship, that's what we got. So, but as you're going into relationships and as you're going into conversations and experiences with others in this unique time, decide what you want that relationship to look like before you even have the conversation. Listen, my hope for you is that relationships, personally and in business, are even stronger, that they're thriving even better by the time we're all done with this. Remember, you've got this. We've got it together. Have a great day.